Matthew from Port Macquarie, Australia. I hope I pronounced that right. There were initial reports that said Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler would handle the commentary for the greatest Royal Rumble, but we ended up with the usual crew instead. Why couldn't WWE have both teams and let viewers select which commentary they wanted to listen to? I'm not saying they do it every week, but for pay-per-views or just the big four, why not? I think it's all an upside and would give JR and King a chance to prove that they are still a draw. Well, I mean, I'm not sure how much a draw the announcers are, but I kind of see what you're saying there. It's not practical. It's just not practical. See, once I realized how long this show was going to be, I wasn't surprised that they changed their minds and went with Cole and Graves and Saxon as the team. It was Lawler. It wasn't just some random internet rumor. It was Jerry Lawler on his podcast who initially said that he and JR were going to call the entire show. It came from him. Now, I don't know if JR ever confirmed that or not, but clearly if Lawler is to be believed, it was a late change that was made by WWE. You know, I'm sure Lawler is told things by people in the company. That's why he suggested on his podcast that, you know, WWE was paying the women for the Saudi Arabia show, even though they weren't there. And PW Insider later confirmed the same thing. But the idea of having two tables side by side and let the viewer choose which team they want to listen to, it sounds nice in theory. In practice, it just doesn't work. I mean, think about the way they transition from one segment to the next. They'll have, you know, this shot of the announcers at ringside doing their banter and cracking on each other and talking back and forth, previewing the next match, right? Just think of the way they do that. And then they transition from that to the next set of graphics. And, you know, the people in the truck rely on cues from the announcers when they stop speaking, if they talk off the cuff about something, which, believe it or not, they actually do sometimes. And then when they're done talking, they usually, or they think, okay, they're about to finish up what they're saying, they cut to the graphic for the next segment, right? Or the next match graphic. Well, what if one team is still talking? What if Cole is still, you know, flapping his gums and JR and King are already done talking? Well, what do you do then? You're not going to have graphics on one feed and no graphics on the other. You see what I'm saying? It's not practical. I would much rather, and this is an idea that I pitched years ago on this podcast, and this would be, I think, far more doable. You can't tell me technology either does not or will not at some point allow for this to happen. I think this is more doable and more likely to happen, is that WWE gives us, the viewer, on the network, the option to mute the announcing. Give us the option to mute the commentary and just go with the ambient crowd noise, as though you were watching a house show. Remember when Lawler had his heart attack on TV? And Michael Cole said, you know, out of respect to Jerry Lawler, there will be no more commentary for the rest of the show. And we had like an hour of television with no announcing. It was just watching the action and listening to the crowd. And there was something that was kind of refreshing about that. I'll be honest with you. You know, I kind of liked it. It kind of helps when the announcers are so bad you just want to turn the television off. That's even more of a reason to want to just listen to the crowd. But, you know, I don't think that it would be such a horrible thing to give people the option to have that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe technologically speaking, it's not that easy to do, and somebody can explain to me, well, it's not really practical, and here's why. But it would be a hell of a lot more practical, I think, than having dueling announce tables where, you know, people can pick and choose the voices they want to hear. Give me the option to mute these people and just listen to the crowd and the video packages and the backstage interviews. Like, that's fine. Because more often than not, the announcing actually detracts from these shows. The Greatest Royal Rumble was a great example of that. And I don't know if that was a case where there were just certain things they had to be careful about what they were saying. And it, you know, no. It was just a case of the commentary sucking. The commentary sucked on that show. Aside from when Titus slipped and they all lost their shit, which was funny. The announcing was awful on that show. It was absolutely god-awful. And I would have loved to have had the option to turn them off and just pretend that they weren't there. To me, that's a lot more practical, and one day I want to see that option on the network.